If you are a new fan to the channel, or if you have been a long time viewer, then if there's one thing you need to know about me, is I collect video games. So I decided to make a video showcasing some of the things you need to know if you want to be a video game collector. Now you may want to obtain video games because so that you can build up a collection or impress your friends, or because you want to get a game that feels nostalgic for you. I've started being a video game collector since last year in January, and since then, I've learned a lot when it comes to building up a collection. So during the video, I'll be sharing you all some of the tips I've learned, and hopefully you may learn a thing or two about collecting video games. So with all that said, here's my 10 tips for collecting video games. Tip number 1. Know what games/consoles you want to buy. The worst thing that anyone could do right now is going into a game store and buying every single game for every single console in one day. Doing this will lead to a total mess and can make a huge negative impact on your bank account. The way how I started was I bought a couple of games every 2 weeks or so that I remember playing back in the day, like Spyro Year of the Dragon, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, and The Simpsons Hit and Run. As soon as I got some games that I remember playing, I then tried to get other games that I unfortunately missed out on, like the Ratchet & Clank Future series, Spider-Man 2, and so much more. Try to buy games that mean something to you and not just getting everything that you lay your eyes on. And as for consoles, don't worry about buying every console. Just try to save up money and buy the consoles that you want. Tip number 2. Have patience. You may have seen a video of someone showing off his over 5,000 collections of video games. Well, do take note that he or she didn't get all of these games in one day, 1 month, or even 1 year. Building up a collection takes a lot of time and effort, so if you are considering to build up a collection, have patience and eventually, you will get the collection that you always dreamed of. Tip number 3. Check out the markets in social medias. Facebook is probably the best suggestion in my opinion. Take part in a market store group where the only thing they focus on is buying and selling. And that goes for video games as well. You'll be surprised what people are actually selling in the Facebook markets. But don't get it twisted, son. Some of the people you might see in the market have been collecting video games for years, and they know exactly how much video games and consoles are worth. I don't really purchase anything on social media markets unless if the price is fair, but it is interesting to see what people bring to the table, and who knows, maybe you might see an item on the market that you like, and you might decide to buy it. Tip number 4. Research on the internet. Oh man, the internet. The only place where people can get triggered pretty easily. And it's also a place to buy games as well. eBay is probably the most recommended sites to buy games. Be sure to check out some other sites out there like Amazon, Luki Games, The Gamesman, Gumtree, and much more. The links for each website will be in the link in the description if you're interested. If you are going to buy games on eBay, then the best way to find games for the right price is to check the sold listing and then find a cheap game you can afford but at the same time with an excellent condition. If you want a better idea of which game is cheap, then my suggestion is to check out a site called Video Game Price Chart. From there, you can type whichever game and see what people are actually paying for. If a game is cheap, but the condition is acceptable at least, then the chances are the game will probably not work to your liking. That's why it's better to do some research first. Don't just buy the first item you see, scroll down through the items to different pages and find which game suits you the best with a good condition and a fair price. Continuing the topic about the internet, this brings us to tip number 5. Watch out for scammers. There are many people online who will do anything to get their hands on your money, even if that means just putting up false information or not sending the item at all. If you are purchasing games on the internet, then do be aware of scammers. If you see something that looks suspicious, then feel free to ask more questions or ask for some more information about the item. Luckily for me, I haven't come across a scammer yet, but since many people will do anything for money these days, I'm bound to meet one sooner or later. And if you do come across a scammer, then report that person immediately. Cause the last thing people want on the internet is for scammers ruining other people's online shopping experience. Tip number 6. Be on the lookout for pawn shops, garage sales, and etc. The internet isn't the only destination to find and buy video games, controllers, and consoles. Places like pawn shops, markets, retro game stores, and even garage sales will have something that's related to video games. It doesn't hurt to go around and check out people's garage sales, as there could be something that you've always wanted and it just so happens to be in that pile. And plus, there's always something interesting, so don't rule the garage sales out, but do watch out for overpriced stuff and ask questions about the item and see if it's legit or not. And don't be scared of working with the seller for dropping the price down, as it could save you a few amounts of money. Well, most of the time at least. Tip number 7. Buy video games in bulk. Buying games in bulk is a very handy tip to look into. Why buy one game for $40 when you can buy a huge amount of games for the same price? And the best thing about buying in bulk is if there are some games that you don't want or you already have, you can sell the remaining games and get half or even more of your money back. It's a win-win scenario, I may say. And if there's a bulk that you want but don't have enough money, then what you can do is team up with a friend and divide you and your friend's money into two, choose which games you want, and if you both don't want any other games in that bulk, you two can sell and divide that money. You win, your friend wins, the seller wins, everybody wins. Tip number 8. Always do the opposite. I saw Metal Jesus Rock's video about his tips for collecting video games, and there was one tip he mentioned that was interesting, and I'd like to bring it up. If everyone goes to the left, you go to the right. Say if everyone is looking for a Sega Mega Drive or a Dreamcast, why don't you go to the opposite direction and go after a Game Boy Advance, or a PlayStation Portable, or an original Xbox console? Because when everyone is going after a popular console, the sellers are going to see this and rise up the prices, making it even more difficult to buy something that you want. This way, by going to the opposite direction, you'll be able to buy different games/consoles for a very cheap price. And then when the popularity for the Sega Mega Drive and the Dreamcast goes down, you'll be able to buy those consoles for a low price. Tip number 9. Test everything that you bought. I just got this game in the mail earlier today, and now I'm gonna put it on the shelf. Did anyone see what I did wrong? What I did was I put the game on the shelf without even testing it to see if it works. The absolute worst thing when it comes to buying games is not testing it. I shouldn't really remind anyone to test games because it is common sense, but do keep in mind that you do have to test everything, and that goes for accessories and controllers as well. If you do decide to finally test out a game that you bought 4 months ago and you find out that it doesn't work, and when you ask for a refund to the seller, then the seller will laugh his ass off and say, "Why didn't you test the game out when you got it on day 1? So seriously guys, when I mean test everything, you must test everything. And so we reached to tip number 10. And this just might be the most important tip out of all of them. It's a tip I always remember every time, and if I don't follow this tip, then I should really consider what I'm doing with my life. Tip number 10. Have fun. You're gonna go out there and find some awesome games for a low price, games that you'll remember playing back in the day, and being able to buy consoles that you always wanted to try, so you might as well have some fun while doing it. And if you're not having fun, then the only suggestion I have for you is stop buying video games. There are going to be times when buying games can be easily repetitive, and if you're not too careful, you can easily waste a lot of money. If you're not having fun, then take a break from buying games, and when you feel like you're ready, then you can buy some more. Building up a collection is really fun, I'll admit it, but don't rush into buying everything that you see. Take your time, learn from your mistakes, and I promise you, you will get the collection you always wanted. So guys and gals, be smart, always have a second opinion, and test everything. I cannot stress that enough. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have some of your own tips you'd like to share, feel free to comment down below. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe today. My name's the Gaming Critic, telling you to keep calm, and keep playing video games.